Well, stay tuned for a couple of really quite shocking stories about drunk tourists assaulting police officers on the island, and that'll be coming up a little bit later on in this week's bulletin. But welcome. But first, let's talk about the wine run which took place last weekend, and it was absolutely brilliant. Julie and I, together with around 1,700 other runners and walkers, competed in the event. And for the runners, they have a choice of a 23-kilometre or a 12-kilometre trek. And for the walkers, and we were among them, we had the 12-kilometre distance at a walking pace with wine stations and all that kind of good stuff. The beauty of this event is that it goes through parts of the Laria wine region that you can't normally access, so you can see some epic views all the way along, and we had a brilliant day, and the party afterwards is exceptional. So if you're ever here in June, do look out for the wine run and either go along to enjoy the after party, or better still take part in the walking event at the very least. You'll have a fantastic time as we did. Now, while we're talking about Laria, and we saw this while we were down there, there's a lovely new statue that's been put on the roundabout that is the entrance to the village, and it's called Reflejos de Laria, Reflections of Laria, and it's a beautiful 3-meter high bunch of grapes with a lizard or a gecko just appearing around the corner. It's very redolent of the area and well worth going to have a look at next time you're passing through that part of the island. Now, I should talk about the weather, and again I've deliberately changed my position so you can see behind me that we have what I would describe as very typical June weather for Lanzarote. So that awful dull stuff has gone away now. We've got a few clouds around in the morning. They are now just burning out, and you can see lovely blue sky behind me, and all week the temperatures in the afternoon have been in the sort of high 20s, 27 to 29 degrees. It's quite breezy, and you can probably hear it, but that's what the trade winds do at this time of year. But very comfortable to be sunbathing or chilling around the pool with a cocktail. Marina Rubicon are implementing parking charges which will kick off on the 1st of July. And if you've been down there over the last few months, you'll probably have seen that there were barriers waiting to be activated on the entrance to the main car park for Marina Rubicon. The reason they're doing it is because they've got some issues with people staying in hotels, for example, parking their cars, their hire cars there all day, and just using it as a convenient car park and walking along to and from the hotels. I've also heard stories about people who will just park their cars there because it's safe and free parking for all day, and then going out on boats or shopping or whatever else. Whatever the arguments for and against having paid parking there, it will kick off on the 1st of July. The first 45 minutes for anyone will be free of charge. Beyond that, from the 46th minute onwards, the charge is 2 cents per minute. So I did a quick calculation. If you were to go there to enjoy a meal, which would perhaps take 2 hours at lunchtime or in the evening, your parking charge is going to be about €1.50. So it's not going to break the bank, but the idea is that it will stop people who may or may not have been abusing the system in the last few months or so. A couple of people I've seen on social media blaming the town hall, the ayuntamiento, and being very bad-tempered about it. It's nothing to do with them. Marina Rubicon is a private company. They own the car park and they make the rules there. And while we're in Playa Blanca, I need to talk about the dreaded e-scooters. Now, if you've been watching these bulletins for the last few weeks, you will know that the ayuntamiento of Yaisa actually asked all of the companies that have e-scooters out on the streets to remove them from the streets, pending the enactment of a new ordinance or council law, if you like. Inevitably, they have not complied. So this week the town hall have asked the police to go and collect all of the scooters and take them off the streets, and I gather they're doing that right now. In the meantime, the town hall enacted their new legislation, and the idea behind this legislation is to enable companies to comply with Spain's new VMP laws. VMP is Vehiculo Mobilidad Personal, so it's a personal mobility vehicle, and that's the classification now for these e-scooters. And the new Spanish law requires a number of things. People have to wear helmets on them. They can only ride one up. They are not allowed to ride on pavements, so they need to stick either to roads or cycleways, and the machines are actually registered and limited to a maximum speed of 25 kilometers an hour. So Playa Blanca, Yaitza's new ordinance has now been enacted and will require these hire companies to comply with that law going forward. And what they're proposing to do is to allow one, two, and perhaps three companies to put a maximum of 600 scooters on the streets in Playa Blanca, but they must comply with all elements of the law. So they'll have to have helmets on them. The duty of the company hiring them out will be to ensure that people stick within the rules that I've just explained to you. So they'll have to have some sort of mechanism to explain to them what they can and can't do, presumably via a video, via their app. Now, we got some personal experience of this because we rode them some time ago in Australia, and we thought the system was really well set up. I mean, for example, you couldn't ride the scooter until you'd unlocked the helmet, which was attached to it, and put it on. But the scooters also had a really good GPS system which detected where you were at all times. And that meant, for example, we rode inadvertently into a pedestrian zone and the scooters just stopped because they knew that they're not allowed to be ridden on that section. But they're also aware of traffic around you, if that makes sense. So whenever we went into a very busy area where there was a lot of traffic or pedestrians perhaps trying to cross the road and stuff, they reduced the power. So the maximum speed went down from 25 to, I think it was 10 kilometers an hour, just to be aware of the congestion around you. So this is all quite doable, and I hope, I have my fingers crossed that if and when the scooters come back, they will have those kind of features to protect, let's face it, the idiots who've been riding them 2 and 3 up, risking mowing down pedestrians on the pavements and all that kind of stuff. So fingers crossed that's going to work for the better in the future. Now let's talk about the shocking news I mentioned at the start about the 2 separate cases of assaults on police officers. And the first one was at a hotel in Costa de Gizeh, where a British lady called the police because her partner was assaulting her. Police went along to intervene, and they ended up being punched by her partner for interfering in his relationship and so on. Apparently the guy was drunk, and he was arrested and taken away. I don't know what the outcome of that one is. The second one was really quite shocking, and this involves 2 British women who were on a British Airways flight to Gatwick from Lanzarote. And they boarded, but they were drunk and they were quite abusive to the people around them. The captain of the aircraft asked the police to intervene while they were still at the gate. The police came aboard. One of the women complied and they took her off the aircraft. The other woman refused to leave the aircraft. She was clearly extremely drunk. She refused to leave the aircraft, saying she paid for a ticket and she wasn't leaving. The police then cleared the 10 rows in front of them, so they took the passengers off the front of the aircraft so they could forcibly remove her, and during that process she bit one of them and caused big scratches on the other officer. So it was all a bit of a mess, and she has already appeared in court. She was charged with assaulting the police. She was fined €1,080 and ordered to pay €850 to as compensation to the 2 officers who she injured. I don't think that's enough, to be honest. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant now, but this just happens too often. What on earth is it about people that lets them feel it's okay to get so drunk you don't know what you're doing, and you lose all your sense of propriety and sensibleness. And it really frustrates me, and what particularly frustrates me as someone who is British born is that it always seems to be British people, not always, but most of the time when this happens, it happens with British people. So please people, just get a grip and actually have a few drinks. Because one of my frustrations with this is that I see on social media all the time people saying, right, they should ban drinking in airports, they should ban drinking on aircraft. No, they shouldn't. People who travel should have enough common sense not to get blind drunk because they're going on holiday, and they end up ruining their own holiday for themselves. I actually want to be able to have a whiskey and coke in the airport. I want to be able to have a glass of wine with my food on the plane because I'm not driving at the end of it. And I don't want that privilege to be taken, if that's the right word, to be taken away from me. So hopefully the fines will get bigger, and I would like to see people slung in jail for a week. You know, if you're coming on holiday and you misbehave in the way that lady does, just stick her in jail for a week or so, and hopefully she'll repent her sins and not do it again. But on to nicer things now. The avenida that runs along Playa del Reducto, the main beach in Arrecife, if you've been down there over the last 6 months, you will know that there's been an awful lot of work going on there. And that is just about to be completed. It should be opening literally in the next few days. And what they've done is put in this lovely walking area with trees and lots of nice street furniture so you can sit down on seats and relax, and a cycle path through the middle of it. There's a Spanish tradition called the paseo, and paseo literally means just sort of going out for a walk in the city to see your neighbours and enjoy the evening before your evening meal. And I think it's going to be a perfect area for a pre-dinner paseo. So we'll go and check it out for you in the next couple of weeks and show you what it's like. Just a reminder, please, to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell. I don't know whether I'm pointing in the right way or not, but hit the notification bell that will remind you every time we post a new video. That way, when we post these news videos on a Saturday morning, you'll be able to see them in your feed and hopefully enjoy them. And as I've said before, we love to see your comments and likes and everything else. I read every single comment that is posted. If there's a question in there, I will always do my very best to answer it. I think I'm batting 100 for 100 at the moment. So I don't think I've been asked anything yet that I haven't been able to answer. But yeah, please ask your questions, and we're happy to interact with you as much as we possibly can. And we're going to finish up on two accommodation stories. The first is that the European Union, the EU, has passed a new law which prevents the big booking platforms, for example Booking.com, from insisting that hotels cannot post lower prices than the ones they've given to Booking.com. So let me try and explain that in easier to understand terms. If you own a hotel and you want Booking.com to put your hotel on their massive platform, you have to sign a contract, an agreement that you will not allow your hotel to be sold at a lower price than it is on Booking.com. So even the hotel's own website, they can't advertise it there, they can't advertise it anywhere at a lower price than Booking.com. And the EU have said that that is a restrictive practice, and I agree with them. And so going forward, Booking.com and the other platforms who do similar things will no longer be able to have that as part of their contract. So hotels will have the opportunity now to offer their hotels directly to the public at a lower price than is on the Booking.com site. Now, over the last few years, hotels have had to sort of run rings around trying to find ways to be able to do this and therefore save the commission they're paying Booking.com and pass that on to the customer. And the way they've had to do that is by giving people extras, if you like. So, you know, for example, if you book direct with the hotel, you might get 2 free spa visits, whereas if you book with Booking.com you don't, and so on and so forth. But that law is now in place, so we might see some movement on accommodation prices in the not too distant future. And finally, and I said it was also about accommodation, there have been another 230 applications, successful applications for the Vivienda Vacacional, which is the letting license for private homeowners with apartments and villas on the island. That brings the total, and I'm just going to refer to the numbers here because I can't remember these for that long, brings the total on the island to 8,572. And the split across the three resort municipalities, Yaitsa has the most at 2,422, Tias 2,298, and Tegese 1,730. So there's 8,500 rental homes now. You can do the math yourselves, but if you assume that they can each hold perhaps 3 or 4 people as an average, there are 3 or 4 beds. That's an awful lot of beds in that sector. And the thing that I think everyone was a bit concerned about, knowing that there is a new letting law coming in the not too distant future, has really come true, and the numbers have increased massively over the last 10 months or so, and I think they will continue to do so until this new law comes in and there is a moratorium on the application for new licenses. Well, thank you so much for watching. We really do value every one of your views. We will be back at the same time next week with the news from your favourite island in the sun, Lanzarote. Take care and bye for now.